big old bright sunlight in his face.
Joseph's playing a pretty interesting deck of his own. He's playing a Jeskai Tokens deck.
Oh yeah, this deck actually looks awesome. So Monastery Swiftspear is a card that when I first saw it, I wasn't really impressed, but I think I really underestimated prowess as a mechanic. And the fact that it's seeing a lot of play in these mono-red aggro decks is great. And now we see it in this Jeskai Tokens deck where he's playing like Goblin Rabblemaster, Triplicate Spirits, Hordling Outburst. A lot of these spells that are virtual creatures to, pump the Monastery Swiftspear and also just flood the board with guys to control the game with just like a bunch of ground guys. So.
Yeah, and this deck has gone all the way to 6-1 today. It's been quite the contender. As we are underway with our game, both players starting off with some pain mana. Ross will start on Elvish Mystic, and it is that Monastery Swiftspear for Joseph Scalco on turn 1.
Well, I got to root against Joseph here because he is lands before spells guy, and I can't in good conscience condone that. So.
Turn 2 play from Ross is going to be Courser of Crufix, showing Elvish Mystic.
He will be taking damage from here down to 17, which is important. His life total is going to matter in this matchup. Stoke the Flames from Joseph here, later in the game could spell some trouble for him.
Yeah, so when we look at Joseph's deck, it has Sunburn in it. So it has Jeskai Charm and Stoke the Flames.
Yeah, I mean, I love Jeskai Charm. The first time I saw that card, I was just like, oh, this is just a 3-color Boros Charm. You get to put a guy back on top of the deck. It's kind of like a combo of Boros Charm and Azorius Charm because you get to put a guy on top of the deck. You can give all your guys like a boost, or you can just dome them for 4. So,
yeah, we do see no play on turn 2 for Joseph. He just had a Tri-land. One of the hazards of running a 3-color aggro deck. And it looks like Ross is just going to throw things onto the battlefield for his next turn.
That's Nykthos.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He's got an Elvish Mystic and an online Nylea as he passes the turn back to Joseph.
Yeah, I mean, this looks pretty bad for Joseph. Ross is starting really strong with turn 2 Courser against a pretty aggressive deck from Joseph and follows it up with an Elf and the Nykthos activation for a Nylea and threatening a lot of damage next turn, but also just brick-walling Joseph completely in the early turns of the game. Right now, something like Goblin Routmasters doesn't even seem very powerful, but looks like we have Hordling Outburst here instead, which, I don't know, could be some good with Stoke the Flames here to kill Courser, which would be nice.
Yes, Joseph's, as he said, going to play Hordling Outburst. His deck doesn't actually have that much removal in it outside of the Stoke the Flames. It's got a lot of non-creature spells, but most of them are token makers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the Jeskai Charm can kind of act like removal and putting the creature on top, which is actually great against the Indestructible Gods, since it doesn't destroy the creature. But I think Big Papa Jinx Hydra's coming down next turn, so this game might be over before it even starts. We'll have to see.
We'll see just how much mana Ross can make here. He's going to activate Nykthos for 5 this turn.
Yeah, I mean, he had the Void Jinx Satyr on top, so I don't know how crazy he's going to go.
Yeah, down to 3, 4, 5 mana again.
Taking a black. Oh, here's Doomwake. That's a Ghouler.
And Doomwake Giant. That's a pretty good response to Hordling Outburst.
I have to say, it's looking pretty good here. But yeah, it looks like Joseph is going to Stoke the Flames, the Courser here in response, which a pretty decent play. I think it would have been a little bit stronger here doing that just in the main phase, turning off Nylea immediately, making the Nykthos a little worse. But, I don't mind it. I mean, he might have wanted to just start doming Ross with these 4 damage burn spells with Jeskai Charms and Stokes. So,
right. I'm not sure that Joseph expected Doomwake Giant.
Oh, no.
And especially when he thinks about his deck, this guy's worlds of trouble for his strategy. All right, I'm looking at it. We have Raise the Alarm, Hordling Outburst, Triplicate Spirits.
Someone get Shroud over here, man. Why do you put this matchup on camera? The 4 Doomwake Giant against Triplicate Spirits? What's going on?
No, talking to Ross and the people who designed the deck with him, right now they're saying that it seems like they have one of the best lists in the room. Doomwake Giant is doing, from all accounts I've heard, is doing a number on the metagame right now.
Sure. Well, I do want to say that I talked to Ross at the end of last round, and this is he played 5 red decks out of the first 7 rounds, and he beat all 5 of them. He also played against a Mardu tokens deck.
Oh, okay.
And now he's playing against a Jeskai tokens deck.
So if you only play against decks that run 2-1s and 1-1s and tokens, then your Doomwake Giants are going to be really good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the joke, right? You just can never lose with Doomwake Giant when your opponents have 6 guys in play on turn 3 every game and they all die.
All right, Joseph's going to make a Jeskai Ascendancy. And we actually haven't seen one of the Ascendancies on camera
Yeah, let's
yet.
get that one on the board here, because Jeskai Ascendancy has actually been the talk of a lot of Star City articles recently, in that whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you get to untap all your guys. That's the most important part, right? Because when you have access to a mana creature and you just have this steady chain of cheap cantrip spells, you could actually just go not necessarily infinite. Once you draw too many lands, you could burn out, but the fact that you get to loot also with the Jeskai Ascendancy makes that not so difficult to just combo out with.
Yeah. There actually is a combo deck built around this right now.
I know. There's a few, but
they're a little fragile
good
at the moment. They involve you having 2 to 3 mana creatures in play and that no one touches them.
Yeah, better or worse than Paradise Mantle and oh god, what's the guy's name? The red-blue hybrid card. I can't remember its name. Oh man, this is gonna bug me.
I mean, have you seen? You also, if you're into sweet combos, you also have a deck like this with Ornithopter and Refraction Helix.
Oh god.
Yeah. See how that one?
Yeah, I get it.
All right, Ross's turn's going to be Nissa Worldwaker, and then in come the monsters. It's a 4/4 land, a Nylea and a Doomwake Giant. Joseph with a lowly Squire in play.
Yeah, I think I just figured something out. Jeskai Ascendancy does not block Nylea. That's what it does not do. This is a lot of damage coming in. 14 whole points coming in. Joseph's sitting at 16. This is, even the Nylea even gives all the other guys trample, so I don't know if he has that many ways in his deck to actually come back from this.
No, it doesn't seem like he'll be able to block it out, even if he has enough creatures. And the issue on top of that is all it takes for Ross is one more enchantment, and they just sweeps the board again.
Yeah. The cool thing about the Jeskai Ascendancy, though, is that it actually could be a reasonable counter to the opposing Doomwake Giant if he had more time. Holding up spells on Ross's turn to cast to give all his guys a +1/+1 boost. But at the moment, it just looks like he's getting smashed by 4/4s and 6/6s. So.
Yeah, and actually, I want to talk about the cheap spells because he's playing 4x of Defiant Strike in his deck. And if you haven't drafted much yet, you might not know what Defiant Strike is.
I believe that is 1 white mana, target creature gets +1/+0, and you draw a card.
And that is it.
Yeah, this card is, it's interesting. That's what I'll say, it's interesting.
If you have enough prowess, this could stand to be a pretty good card.
Yeah, it could be fine. It can deal a reasonable amount of damage and turn on your prowess, but I don't really foresee it doing a whole heck of a lot at this juncture of the game anyway.
Well, Scalco has that card. He's going to start out by Defiant Striking, and his Swift Spear pumps from prowess and from the Defiant Strike.
Yeah, so the way the trigger works on Ascendancy, he actually loots before he draws the physical card with the Defiant Strike, so has a little less information here than he would like when looting off of the Ascendancy, but like I said, his deck is pretty vulnerable to Doomwake Giant. Even if he was able to put up a little bit of a fight here, I'm not sure he could reasonably get out of it, but...
One thing I've heard that's been very good about Defiant Strike for this deck is that in tandem, especially with cards like the Swift Spear, it lets you push through Sylvan Caryatids.
Sure.
It's just the right number to hit off a 0/3.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Rabble Red type decks lately, and I gotta say I'm really enjoying Titan Strength right now. I think it's fantastic at helping your Rabble Master get over things like Corsair Crewfix, or just helping your early guys, punch through the Sylvan Caryatids. So, I can see the +1/+0 doing that really well with Monastery Swift Spear or other prowess creatures. So,
yeah, Horthing Outburst is the play for Joseph. I'm not sure he plays a planes and passes. So I was going to say I'm not sure I see what he's going to up to. If he has Defiant Strike, he can make enough toughness maybe to survive through this turn.
Yeah, Nissa's coming down for another 4/4 off this Llanowar Waste more than likely. Ross even looks like he has a reasonable amount of mana to maybe even Nykthos and then use Nylea's ability. But
if Joseph survives this turn, which I'm not sure he can, next turn doesn't seem much better.
Yeah.
And he's going to play Genesis Hydra on 3. That gets a Sylvan Caryatid. Nissa makes another land into a 4/4. Here comes everyone. That's trampling 13 damage. Even with the pump, that's not 13 toughness on Joseph's side.
No, it is not enough.
So game 1 will go to Ross Merriam.
I'm always happy to see Nissa take down games, not gonna lie, except when it's on the other side of the table from me.
She was bad news today.
Yeah, I
for you?
mean, I got to let her out of the house every now and then, but
Ross just has one, so
Yeah.
that's not as scary. But on the other hand, like you said, the other side of that coin is he has 4 Doomwave Giants. So if you're Scalco, you're probably not happy about that trade.
yeah, I mean, in the sideboard, he might have a few things that can help. Magma Spray could be decent at slowing Ross down by killing his Elvish Mystics, his Voyaging Satyrs. Doesn't really kill a whole lot else, though, but I think slowing him down might be what you need so that it keeps Doomwake Giant from really taking over the game. He has a couple of copies of Perforos God of the Forge in the sideboard, which combo really well with things like Hordling Outburst and Triplicate Spears. Honestly, feels like it should be in the main deck. That card does some serious work with all these token generators.
I was gonna say, if you're worried about your tokens actually surviving, Perforos seems like a secondary game plan that could work pretty well here.
Yeah. One last card in the sideboard that matters a lot, or doesn't really matter all that much, but is kind of cool, is Ride Down. And if you don't know what Ride Down does because you haven't played Limited yet, it's very complicated. But in that no other card in Magic does anything remotely similar to this, to my knowledge. But yeah, you destroy a blocking creature, and then all your guys that were blocked by that guy now gain trample. So it's almost effectively like they were never blocked at all.
That's what it's going for. It's basically saying like, kill the guy and unblock your creatures is what functionally it's trying to do.
Yeah, it's really cool, but it feels very oddly designed, but it's still a pretty sweet card because it's unique. And he might bring this in just because it is a 2-mana way to kill coursers that are blocking and even like a Pulchronos if he has to go on defense. But it is a little situational, and I'm not sure he really needs situational things. He probably just wants to Perforos combo kill here with his Triplicate Spirits and Hordling Outburst, if I had to guess.
How do you feel about this card? The card I see this working with the best is Goblin Rabblemaster. Right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like he swings as a 5/2. They think, oh, sweet, if you're going to trade your Rabblemaster away, great. I'll throw something in front of it. And then you really could get him with this card.
Yeah, I mean, I attacked plenty with Goblin Rabblemaster, and I got to say that does sound pretty sweet. Yeah. But Ross got anything sweet coming in? It looks like maybe Nylea's Disciple seems like it could be pretty good.
So looking at Ross's sideboard, he does have 4 copies of Nylea's Disciple. And I'll be interested to see whether or not he decides this is a Disciple matchup. It is a red deck, one that's playing a Monastery Swift Spear. So it's probably good here, but...
Well, he also saw Stoke the Flame, so you can maybe expect more things like Lightning Strike, but those don't exist in Joseph's deck. He is playing just a token-based strategy. One thing I would maybe like to see in Joseph's deck is, a couple more copies of Spear of Heliod. I know it's legendary. He does have a singleton, but I feel like it could end up doing a lot of damage with Triplicate Spirits and Hordling Outburst in the early turns of the game.
Right, you want another Anthem effect, and he can't really play Hall of Triumph because not all his tokens are the same color.
And he can't play Obelisk of Erd because not all his creatures are the same creature type. I tried really hard in our Versus videos to try to find a Goblin Obelisk of Erd deck, and there's just it's so close, but there's not enough.
Like, we're 1 or 2 cards away from it?
Yeah, something like that. There's not enough 1-drops, and I think the Obelisk of Erd kind of style deck hinges on having a very high number of 1-drop creatures of that creature type, so that you can just go like 1-drop into 2 1-drops on 2, and then Hordling Outburst on 3, and then play Obelisk.
Sure.
That's like the nut draw, but not nearly as good when your 1-drops aren't goblins. You do have a few. You have Founder Tree Denizen and Frenzy Goblin, but I think that's just about it.
Yeah. So going to Ross's deck, you asked about the sideboard, and I'm not sure he has too much for the matchup. He may switch in these Nylea's Disciples, but I'm going to go through some of the other cards. Arbor Colossus, Reclamation Sage, Cetessan Tactics, Hero's Downfall, Pharika, God of Affliction. None of those seem particularly strong against this deck.
I mean, I'm sure he's pretty confused, right? Like this Jeskai Ascendancy deck with a bunch of tokens. And, I mean, I don't know. It is kind of sweet. I do love how Jeskai Ascendancy works really well with... If you have initiative, like casting Hordling Outburst into Jeskai Ascendancy and then a cheap or free spell, lets you just like pump all your team immediately, which is great. And you can do it multiple times in a turn while looting away the extra lands. And, Ross didn't really get to see a lot of his deck, but I think he can maybe figure it out by seeing the Hordling Outburst and the Jeskai Ascendancy and kind of just hoping that Nylea's Disciple gains him enough life to survive like a couple Alpha Strikes.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like Joseph had that much removal, so, you know, Disciple does seem like it's going to come down and gain anywhere between 4 and 8 life pretty easily.
And especially when you're playing on the first weekend, I would think, of a Star City Games Open, there's a lot of guesswork when you look at your opponent's deck, right? You're basically, I've always felt, you have to try to figure out, if you were building their deck, what's this guy trying to do? So what's Ross seen? He's seen multiple Hordling Outbursts, Defiant Strike, and Jeskai Ascendancy. So,
Yeah,
more or less you can get what's going on, right? It's going to be tokens, expect a fair number of he's playing tokens and trying to pump them all. He knows that much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Satizen Tactics would be all that great because Joseph is, trying to generate a bunch of creatures for just like one spell at a time, But if the game goes long and the board kind of gums up, it might actually not be so bad for Ross to have access to that card. He only has a couple copies in the sideboard to bring in, and, he's not going to get flooded on them. But if he's able to put into play like a couple mana dorks and like a Courser, and then Nylee's sideboard is just going to be able to spend 5 mana and wrath away Joseph's side of the board, hopefully.
We're underway. Game started out with an exchange of tap lands. Joseph's turn 2 was just a copy of Monastery Swift Spirit. Swung for 1. Ross played a Voyaging Satyr.
Yeah, I can dig it. Swift Spirit, it looks like he's going to be playing Goblin Rabblemaster here, which the token is going to get eaten by the Voyaging Satyr, but the Jeskai is going to be able to deal damage, and Joseph's going to get to untap with Goblin Rabblemaster, which is the most important part of this whole exchange.
One thing I've noticed today, and I want your thoughts on this, in the new standard is that in a lot of our matches, turns 1 and 2, it seems like are nothing but setup for almost every deck.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nature of the beast. They kind of designed, these 3-color decks to have to play these tap lands, right? And so when you play these tap lands, you kind of have to sacrifice one of your early turns, or sometimes even 2 of your early turns, so that you actually have the right colors of mana on turns 3, 4, and 5 to start hammering home the cards in your actual strategy. That's one of the reasons why I'm a huge advocate of like 2-color decks and even maybe monocolor decks in this format, simply because you don't have that problem. Like you can Elvish Mystic into Courser Crewfix in a mono green deck, or, you might want to still splash another color, but you have far fewer lands that come into play tapped, far fewer lands that deal you damage, and your deck just doesn't have that off turn usually.
Yeah, and even then, like, an Elvish Mystic into Courser is kind of a setup-y sort of thing. That's not your main game plan. Those are your support cards.
Right.
Ross did, on turn 3, make Nylee's Disciple. That was boarded in here.
All right,
See Joseph's turn. He's going to start with a Defiant Strike.
I'm not sure which creature the Nylee's Disciple blocked because he did not push it forward. I'm going to assume that it was just the Goblin, and Joseph's trying to get in a few extra points of damage here. Oh, no.
He blocked the Swift Spear.
He did block the Swift Spear, okay.
That's
big.
Yeah, Joseph had 2 spells for it.
Yeah. Was able to pump its toughness large enough to not die, which is fantastic for him, but it looks like old Doom and Gloom.
Wake. The card that Joseph's deck just... This really does a number on the Raise the Alarm deck.
If I was Joseph, I would be incredibly frustrated right now because I had to play against, like, that guy playing Doomwake Giant, the one card in the whole format that I can't really do much against.
I mean, what happens if Ross plays another Doomwake Giant this next turn?
Well, sometimes we all get to live in Fantasyland every once in a while, and I guess this is just Ross's Fantasyland.
That's not even that that's just having 2 of a 4 of.
No, but imagine having 2 of a 4 of against the deck where it's just literally the best possible card you could draw.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised. Ross is a pretty lucky guy. I've played against him a time or 2 in Legacy, so, wouldn't doubt it.
All right, Reclamation Sage out of the board here for Ross takes care of the Ascendancy.
I'm going to make sound effects if that's cool with you.
Yeah, go for it. He shoots that one down. Elvish Mystic into play.
These 2-for-1s are getting brutal.
And Ross just has all the time in the world right now. At 20 life.
The one hilarious part about this game for me, actually, is that Goblin Rabblemaster is still a frightening threat on the board. It's not gone, which means that, like, Ross actually has to hold back Doomwake Giant. Can't really put that much pressure because if all that Joseph has to do then is have something like Magma Spray or a cheap burn spell to kill the Voyaging Satyr, and then he actually gets started to attack with, like, more of his creatures and actually deal a lot of damage to
Oh,
Ross.
Ross, you see the draw there. That is a
Oh,
second
was it?
Doomwake Giant.
Was it?
Ross is, as you mentioned before, Ross is a very lucky guy.
Was it?
I think.
Was it-
Is
was
that
it-
good right now?
was
Okay,
it
both.
We're gonna play. I don't know. I think we're gonna take Joseph to my new game show that I just came up with. Is that good?
All right, well, that's going to
You tell me.
do a number there on Joseph's board.
I think he was debating on playing. Oh no, he actually no, he could have played Stoke the Flames there to keep his Monastery Swift Spear alive, but opted not to, saving it for perhaps a more juicy target. As Doomwake Giant awkwardly is a 4/6 and not a 4/4.
He could have swung the Reclamation Sage there, too. Bramaz was all the way down to Squire status.
You know, sometimes these invisible things they're hard to see.
But regardless, he's got Scalco down to 14 and down to just a Bramaz.
Yeah, it's very rare that I ever hear the sentence just a Bramaz or Bream. I call it Bramaz. I don't know if that's which one's correct. But yeah, just a Bramaz is usually pretty good if your deck has a bunch of removal and stuff, but definitely not that good here.
Temple here from Ross. And it's not that Ross has a great threat. He doesn't have a great pressure here, but just seems like these Doomwake Giants will just continue to wrath the board on Joseph.
Well, the thing about Ross's deck, he actually doesn't have a gigantic number of enchantments. He basically just has Corso Crufix, the Doomwake Giants, and the Eidolon Blossoms with like the Singleton Nylea. And his sideboard just has one copy of Farika, God of Affliction, which of course he would not bring in this matchup, or at least I would hope not. He's a smart guy. But, you know, obviously any sort of Corsair is already pretty bad for like an aggressive base deck, but with two Doomwake Giants, Wrath in your board, yeah, it's bad.
It's just mean. And
I
now
really
they're
don't
both
know
going
what
to
else
swing
say.
in.
This just feels like the dream matchup for Ross in the later rounds of a pretty big tournament here. So
Doomwake Giant seems well positioned here. And now Ross will make Hornet Queen.
I wish I had a good Hornet Queen joke like, "Hi, honey, I'm home." I made one up, but it's not a bee; it's a hornet, and they don't make honey, so it's not as good.
I don't know where that one's going. All right. Hornet Queen. Her plus 4 tokens.
Well, that's the joke. You play Hornet Queen, you say, "Hi, honey, I'm home," but it's not a bee queen. It's a
Oh,
Hornet
okay,
Queen.
because she'd make honey.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I hate
All
having
right,
it.
It's better.
The
You're
whole
right.
point,
I know.
The whole point was that it was not a joke because it's a hornet. But
Okay.
I still wanted to say it because I thought it was funny. And you ruined it. You ruined it.
Second enchantment here from Joseph Scalco.
Oh, this is great. Thanks for letting me be on, guys. This is fun.
This is. There's 6 in the air on Ross's side. It looks to be lethal this turn. Joseph's going to play it out. I don't think he has a way to kill
That
Hornets.
cat token is not in play yet, by the way. I didn't know if he was going to try to do some weird Stoke the Flame shenanigans, but yeah. So the Goblin Round Master triggers first. Then you declare attacks with Bramaz, but it doesn't look like he was going to do anything weird or just kind of shortcutting. So.
And Ross putting some creatures. The safest thing is probably just to kill everything that attacks.
Yeah, that's a safe bet.
Hornets in front of the Cat King. 2/2 in front of the 1/1.
I mean, you're at 20 here. I think there's some reasonable expectation to just take a few points of damage.
He
but
wants
maybe
the
not.
flawless victory. That's what's going on.
Fair enough.
He's going to pump his whole team here with the Stoke the Flames, but that doesn't do much. All the Hornets have Death Touch.
Well, he is going to save the one that was blocking Bramaz, so that's reasonable. Yeah, so actually that's a pretty sweet interactive combo there with Stoke the Flames and Jeskai Ascendancy. You get to tap all your guys basically for free because they get to untap. So if you end up having 4 Stoke the Flames in your hand,
You
and
can just run them all out.
16, yeah. And you get to loot every time, so you can kind of dig for more, which is kind of sweet.
So if my opponent was at, say, 12 and I had 2 Stoke the Flames, I could just start burning them out and just cross my fingers?
Yeah, you'll probably get there, you know.
All right.
You know,
I'm going to have to do that then.
Especially if you're Ross, you know, then you'll definitely get there. 'Cause
Yeah.
You're just the
Just draw an
luckiest.
enchantment, blow up, wrath the board for the 3rd time.
Yeah, you know.
And there you have it, 2-0.
I will say I feel really bad for Joseph. That's bad beats, man, because your deck is sweet and Ross is a big jerk.
I mean, that's when you go home and people are like, what happened? You'd be like, Oh, there's this guy just running Doomwake Giants.
Oh man, I actually
They're
hate it because
stupid.
Ross is gonna end this tournament just like so high on Doomwake Giant, and it's just so unreasonable that he would play against like 6 decks out of 8 that are just 1/1 based. Like I played against Nissa in like these mono green decks like 5 times today.